Hello, trig students. I am here to give you some calculus hints on your first day of calculus. So it's section 11.1. It's in MathXL, and I have quite a few hints. So on 1 through 6, it's a little bit cumbersome. So there's like 6 blanks for each question, and the Help Me Solve This tool I think is really helpful for that. So here is how my screen looks on number 1. So there's like 6 different blanks. And if you get one of them wrong, a message pops up and says, like, you got at least one wrong, but you don't know which one. So if you go up to question help and then go down to help me solve this, it will let you do it one at a time. So you can get feedback on like each one. So especially if you're having kind of like a harder time on them, get feedback on one at a time, and that can be really helpful. Okay, and I want to show you like several different ways to actually get each one of these blanks, and then you can choose which one you like. I'll do that in the next problem. So one of the ways you can do it quick is like in the home screen of your calculator. So instead of having to type in like 1 over when x is 6.9 minus 7 and then press enter and then type it all over again for x is 6.99, one way you can do that is, and then remember when there's more than one thing on the top or the bottom, give it parentheses so the calculator knows like it's all that stuff on the bottom. So 1 over 6.9 minus 7, and it'll give an answer. Like this one says negative 10. Oh yeah, I think you can see that. Then you can, instead of typing the whole thing over again, because later, this one's number 2, but later like in number 6 the answers get longer, you can use this last entry key and then you can modify what you had just typed in. So if you do second and then enter, which is the last entry key, you can go back and insert another 9 for the next one. So here's the insert key, and that can give it a little bit faster. So that's one way to get the numbers a little faster. If it's like there's more than one variable, like this one only has one variable, you can use the store key. So that's what I'll show you next in number, let's see, number 5. Okay, so maybe some good parentheses, definitely on the top because there's a plus or a minus. The bottom ones are optional, but you can have them or not on this one. And also, since it has some trig stuff going on in here, it doesn't let you know whether it wants to be in radians or degrees, but I tested it out and it wants it in radians. So, okay, so here's an example of this, which would be really cumbersome to plug all in. So one way you can do it is you can say like, hey, I'm going to store this negative 0.01 as a letter in the calculator. And then I'll stick that in here, and then it'll just like click it out for me really fast. So I'm going to type in negative 0.01, and then I'm going to use the store key, which is right here. If you're in my class, I think we did a little bit of that last time. And when you press it, it gives an arrow. And then it's also ready for you to type in like how you want it to store. So I'm going to store it as letter A. So here's a green A, so I have to press alpha first to get to it. And then it'll store as A, and I have to press enter. So now it knows that I want negative 0.01 to be letter A. And then you can type in all this jazz, but just with the letter A, and magically I just did that. And when you press enter, it types it in. And then all you have to do for the next one is you could like store negative 0.001 as the new A, store as A, and then you can do second entry to get like 2 entries back, and then you can just press enter again, and that gives you with the new A of negative 0.001. And so that's another way that can make it a little faster. And then the 2 other ways that I wanted to show you as far as plugging stuff in that might be a little faster than just like typing everything in by hand is one's in the graph and one's in the table. So my number 2 was this. I used good parentheses around the bottom. Say you wanted to know when x was like 6.9999 or something like that. You could go in the table setup and just type in 6.9999 as the starting point. And when you go into table, it'll directly spit it out for you, so that can be useful. And then the other place that you might be able to do that if you're more of a graph fan is you can graph it, and then you could use the trace button and trace 6.9999. And that'll give you the same answer. So there's some different options as far as getting a little speed going on in those first 6 questions. Okay, the next one's number 6. It's a piecewise function, so I just wanted to go over kind of the basics on those. The big question is, how do I know which of these formulas to use? And so let's see if x is negative 0.01 right now. We look over here and we see which one's true for if x is negative little number. So this one's x is less than 0, and this one's x is bigger than or equal to 0. Isn't if x is negative point something something, x is less than 0? So this part is true, this top part is true, so therefore we'll use this one. And when x is negative, this number will also, that's also less than 0. But as soon as we jump over to positive 0.001, now x is bigger than or equal to 0. So now we're going to switch down to this one. So we're going to plug these x's into that bottom formula. The last ones I wanted to talk about are 8 and 10. The graphs are really tiny, so if you use this little thing that looks like a magnifying glass with a plus sign on it, it'll zoom in the graph. And you can kind of see like points that are actually on there that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. So the big ideas for those graph ones are the limit exists if the graph from the left is going towards the same thing that the graph from the right is going towards. And the weird part is, that doesn't seem to fit our algebra knowledge, is it doesn't matter what the graph is at that actual spot. So the graphs could be going towards the same thing, even if they have like a little gap. And it still has a limit that exists. So that's kind of the new part for calculus. I hope you have a good weekend and week, and I'll see you next section.